I want to be stepping into the reality that I consciously create, not just something that I default to. It felt like this was an ancient remembrance that I had cultivated for lifetimes that just had come back online in my systems. Every single molecule in the universe is emitting sound at all times. So right now, you are sitting here and you're humming at your own unique frequency, like a beautiful hum that is just unique to you. And we're all doing that, and we're actually picking up on it.
Welcome to the Energy Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Grutman. And if you are a high-achieving woman, a successful entrepreneur, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just a woman with kick-ass big dreams, you're in the right place. If you value your energy, your health, if you want to be a biohacker, tap into longevity, if you want to raise the impact you have in this lifetime, you're going to have a lot of fun around here. As a second-time seven-figure business creator, certified health practitioner, and soul biohacker, I'm here to reconnect you to your energy, to the soul of your business, and to your superpowers. Let's go. Welcome home. Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Upgrade Podcast. This is your host, Vanessa, and today I am graced by the presence of the wonderful Cecilie. Cecilie, you're a sound alchemist. You help people break free from their limiting beliefs using hypnosis and sound and your voice. And I wanted us to have this conversation on the podcast because I got to experience firsthand your medicine, and I was completely blown away. Now, I've done a lot of sound healing ceremonies but yours was different. It was literally as if I entered the angelic realms. It was just something out of a different dimension. And that's why I reached out. I was like, everybody needs to know about you. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for a beautiful introduction. It's my joy to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, for those of you listening, you're going to feel like your entire body is just going to drop in and calibrate to Cecilia's calming voice. And just like, you just have this presence. I love it. And we just recorded another episode together for your podcast for the last hour. And I'm like, yes, we get to keep going. There's just so much that wants to come through. Yeah. So let's maybe, before we talk about exactly what you do, because it is very unique, I'd love to know how it found you, because you're using your voice in the most beautiful way. You're using sound, you're doing hypnosis as well, but I know you're doing many different things. So how did this all come together to create this wonderful whole approach that you have?
Yeah, it's been a journey. So I've actually been singing since I was a child. I used to sing in a church choir for about 7 years. I had a private teacher singing lessons for many years. And then I didn't really sing between the age of 16 and 26. I was sick with a heavy metal poisoning between 18 and 26. So didn't really have any energy to do anything else than trying to figure out what was going on with my health. And I came out on the other side of that and just really was like, I don't want to default to a life that I see the people around me live, because I don't want to do what they're doing. I feel like there's something more that should be experienced here. And I started to get very into neuroscience and into how to reprogram these limiting beliefs that I understood that I probably had picked up on. I've been sick for 8 years. I'm like, there must be some patterns here that I probably picked up on that I don't even realize, because I didn't even call myself sick during that time. And I felt like I was always very proactive, but I was also in many ways just a shadow of myself. So I was like, I want to be stepping into the reality that I consciously create, not just something that I default to. So I got very deep into neuroscience, into really understanding how to rewire the brain in order to reframe the lens that we're literally viewing our entire life through. Like, this is the narrative that decides what we experience in life. Like, you and I can go and watch the exact same movie and I can be like, that was amazing. And you're like, what are you talking about? That was shit. And we're watching the exact same movie, but it's just coming from our perception and what we're looking at. And life is the exact same thing. So some people can just think that, oh, there's something wrong with the world. And other people are like, oh, but what is going on with me? And that was kind of the lens that I was coming from. So I went very deep into the work of neuroscience and meditation, and eventually had a Kundalini awakening, or more of a spiritual awakening. And that was just this wild experience where it felt like I was plugged into source. Like in the moment, I felt like this is what people talk about when they're talking about coming to God, and not in a religious way, but just in like something so much greater than yourself. I felt more love than I had felt my entire life. I felt just like I was plugged into an electric socket, and I couldn't even fathom that this was something that just came from within me. It wasn't a conditional love that was dependent on anyone or anything else. It was just coming from here. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was going to be a once in a lifetime experience. And I kept tapping into this again and again and again, and just not really, like, I thought it was going to be one time, and then it just kept coming back, surrendering to the experience. And this was during a meditation retreat. So I came out on the other side of that week, and I just realized that this is not something that's exclusive to me. This is not an exclusive that I have with the universe. This is a power that's available to every single one of us. And if this is the power that's available, then I need to learn how to share that with people. I need to learn how to master this energy, because if we have this power for creation, then I think anything is possible. So I just, after that, started following the breadcrumbs. And since I've always really loved to sing, I don't know how I found about this sound healing certification, but for some reason I did. So I went to Spain for a 3-week sound healing certification, and we did some vocal work there and kind of just learned a little bit and got, into it. I didn't think it was going to be something that I was going to necessarily share with people. It was more for like me and just reconnecting with my voice. And then little by little, a friend is like, why don't we facilitate a ceremony? And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the balls just started flowing, and ended up eventually learning hypnosis, a Reiki master. And then the concept has just been kind of evolving little by little. Like, I found a super talented producer to work with when I realized I wanted to bring this to bigger venues, not just, a small kind of 20 people where your voice kind of can carry throughout the room, but doing it for a lot more people. And that also made it possible for us to bring in different technology that can also bring us easier into these trance states and all of that by layering different frequencies. And it just became this, I don't know, it's almost like I'm on this path. And as you know, like, there will be periods where you're interested in this and that. And I just, a little bit of hypnosis, that we will bring that in. Like, and then, I have this training in like energy healing. Like, we need that to bring in a different element. So it's all just come together little by little. But the way that I sing is not something that I've been taught anywhere. It started to come through in meditation. And throughout the last years, it's just become, a stronger presence that, like, people that know me when we are in ceremony, they can very clearly see that I'm weaving with something else that's not me. So
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's so beautiful. Sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what an incredible gift you've given to yourself to actually not put yourself in a corner and say, oh no, I need to stick to sound healing the way I've been taught. But you actually gave yourself permission to weave in all the different passions, interests, and talents that you have to create this extremely unique approach. And I agree, when you sing, it wasn't anything I had heard before. So how would you even describe it? Like, it literally felt like an angel was singing in my ears. And I know you were just intuitively kind of harmonizing with the frequency of the sound.
It's always a co-creation between me and the field and the divine. So normally when it's very intuitive. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth before it's there. So it's like just deeply trusting the process, and that is just what's going to be is meant to be. And it's interesting because it's always, especially when I'm doing live ceremonies with people in person, people are usually afterwards like, did you touch my little finger? I'm like, what are you talking about? No. So, because there is always presence of other beings in the room as well that are coming in, to weave and to help. So people can clearly hear that I'm at a different part of the room singing, but they're like, someone is touching my back. There's an intense healing going on here, because this is a co-creation. And that is something that have just kind of it just becomes more and more powerful. The more I cultivate this channel, the more I trust in it, the more I'm present to it. And I have a lot of people asking me, can you help me do vocal activations? Can you help me teach you do what I do? And my answer to that is probably not at this point. Like I have 15 years of classical training, and then I had this awakening moment, and I channel from a place that is far away. That is the deep remembrance that people also know. I have had people come up to me after sessions being like, with tears in their eyes, like, I thought I was the only person who knew this place. Like, is it actually real? You know, like, because they feel like a resonance within what I'm sharing. So there is, I also work with like the layers in the background, that I work with like the frequencies, that they are very targeted to different frequencies, to layer different parts of the body, like to clear all the different chakras in the body. And then we layer in isochronic tones to bring you into a theta brainwave state. Because when we open theta, that's when we can go in and we can access the subconscious mind. And when we do that, we can go in and we can reprogram these beliefs that are, you know, actually programming 95% of the reality that we live today. So the beauty of sound is that while I do hypnosis in the beginning to talk you into a deeper brainwave state where your brainwaves are slower, so we can get into this theta state. The beauty of sound is that when you get into theta, you actually recognize frequency and sound as information. So I don't even have to talk anymore. I can sing and you will see a story in your mind. And that can be different for you than it is to other persons. Instead of bringing it through a guided journey where I talk you through it, where everyone has to kind of go through the same journey, it can be, you can have a very different experience from the other person, but everyone is still connecting to the same story and kind of just weaving their own story within that. So that's the beauty of it, that everyone kind of gets to have their personalized journey while being in a collective field. Mm-hmm. And then I work with energy, and I usually say that I work with Reiki and Kundalini because people know what those concepts are. But the energy I really work with, which was we just talked a little bit about in my podcast, is I've been studying at a mystic school in the US, which is where I've learned some of these things. But the greatest training that I've had is a training from not any physical mentor in this reality, but between the dimensions. And when I do this work, it's as if I become a marionette for something else. That just, the first time this happened to me, I was like, what is happening? This is super interesting, but also completely terrifying, because it was so refined that I could tell that I knew exactly what I was doing. But I'm like, I'm not the one doing this. And I just surrendered to it because in the moment there was no other way. And then I started to experiment with it and use it, and realize that this is the most powerful, healing technology I've come across. And it felt like this was an ancient remembrance that I had cultivated for lifetimes that just had come back online in my system. So when I use that during the sessions, it's like a telepathic process with the bodies in the room. So it feels like if I'm walking up to someone and often they're like, how did you know that I had like an issue with my back? And I'm like, I didn't know that. I saw the field, and I see if there is distortions in the field, that's what I see, the light codes that are not in coherence. And I go in and I change that, because when we change the energetic field outside of the body, it's going to reflect on the body. And that is going to also go in and change what's happening there. So it's a combination of, me singing, having these underlying frequencies, layering in some isochronic tones, it's similar to binaural beats, which people might know. It's just that you can use isochronic tones in speakers. Because you don't need the different frequencies in each of the airs. And then working with energy, going around, doing activations, and obviously just holding the field as well as singing.
Oh, I love this. I love this so much because, you said something the first time it happened through you. You were partly terrified and partly like, oh my gosh, and in
the moment I was just terrified. Like I was fascinated, but I was like, what is going on? Like someone else is controlling my body. I have never experienced this before. This is what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can relate so much. I feel like I've been on this journey for the last 18 months of, we've been talking about it, like initiation, rebirth, and is it
ever going to stop?
No. And that's the point, right? But the thing is, with each initiation and rebirth comes new gifts, like a deeper trust, and like you said, a deeper connection to something bigger than us. And I remember when the first time, light language started pouring out of my mouth, I was like, what is this? Like, how do I know this? Like, it just felt like I was back in the temples, and like it felt so old, but so right, and this happened again, actually last week when I was in my Mexico retreat. We went to a really, really beautiful cenote, in Mexico. So on the Aztec Mayan land. And it was just so amazing. And there was a part of me going there that was super nervous because I just felt like something so big was going to happen, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Now, old me would have been, maybe writing notes and trying to remember by heart something, and I just kind of completely surrendered to it. I was like, you know what? Something's going to happen in there. I don't know what. I did a Blue Lotus ceremony. I brought back some Blue Lotus from Egypt, and I was, I called in all the people, and oh my gosh, like what happened in that cave was just out of this world. I actually don't know what happened. I have no idea what came out of me. I don't know. I just know I was singing. I had instruments. I had stuff. The whole thing just flew out of me. And after that, people are like, this was the biggest, deepest thing I've ever done. If I feel like I'm born again. And I'm like, great, because I have no clue what happened there. So I totally understand. And it fascinates me that there's more and more levels coming up. It's like, oh, here we go again. Something else just unlocked. And I think it's so important that we actually talk about this, because how many women are restraining themselves, are keeping their guards up because it is terrifying, and because it is not the norm, and because, actually finding the rooms where you can bring this up. You can't bring this up, at Easter dinner. Like, forget it. It's like, you have to.
Oh, I kind of do though. I have like a little anecdote here. Yeah. Because I used to be the person who was like, oh, I shouldn't talk about this, shouldn't talk about that. And what I find is that when you are just fully owning it, when you are just so in your power, and it doesn't mean that I go and talk about this to people that doesn't care at all, but people are interested. They're like, because I have a social media, maybe they see or they follow, or they're like, what is that? And they kind of lean in, they get interested because it's like something different. And to some people that can be like terrifying. But what I find is that when you are so grounded in your own presence and you're just certain in what you do, then they're like, oh, I'm not going to push her off just by saying something. So it doesn't really matter. Maybe just get curious instead.
Yes. And that's so important. Thank you for bringing that up. It goes back to being grounded in your knowing, in your power, and reaching that point where there's no layers of people pleasing left.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter what label. It doesn't matter. But I do feel like women, as they are doing their first initiations of remembrance, there's parts of us that don't feel safe to fully open and fully go there. And I just feel like it was so amazing to witness your medicine, and really you oh my gosh, in all of it, and I just received the grandness of it. And it left me really, really deeply touched by it, because this is what we need more of. We need this pure, raw, coming remembrance from so old. And I feel, the whole time I did, and I know you said it was a shortened version, so I can't imagine, but I just felt home the whole time. It just felt so good. And so I want to talk about, because to me, the more I dive into it, the more research I do, the more I experience it on myself, on my clients, on the women I work with, I realize sound and frequency is the most potent medicine we could ever have. It is the biohacking. So to me, this is where I'm like, it's so interesting how all I was doing was looking forward to the newest things, the newest gadgets. And now I'm like, actually, this feels like there's not a resonance so much anymore. The resonance is behind us. It's the ancient wisdom that has been purposefully hidden away because of its power, because of its potency. And of course, walking the temples of Egypt, walking through all the sound healing rooms, it just kind of, oh my gosh, this is it. But I want you to talk to us about what you're witnessing and the power of sound for healing, for ascension, for remembrance.
Yeah, I think it's like you mentioned, it's this ancient medicine that we're starting to remember again, and we're starting to. I think part of why we're also starting to accept it more is because science is actually starting to understand that this is really powerful. And in the ancient, like in the East, like this has been integrated for such a long amount of time. Like they really, because we are there was this moment in science where it's like, should we go more of the electrical route or like the chemical route? Because we are both electricity and chemistry, right? And our nervous system is what communicates through electricity. So every single cell in the universe has a frequency. It has a vibration. It has electricity. And whenever that's present, there will always be sound. So, because there's these electrons spinning around the nucleus at all times, that's creating these wavelengths. So every single molecule in the universe is emitting sound at all times. So right now, you are sitting here and you're humming at your own unique frequency, like a beautiful hum that is just unique to you. And we're all doing that, and we're actually picking up on it. We don't hear it because it's below the human ear of perception. It's similar to when a dog can hear thought, like when a dog can hear noises that we can't, and they're still very clearly running towards something that we're like, okay, something just happened, but I can't hear what's happening. And same thing, the sound is still there, but we don't hear it. But what we do is we feel it. Because what this is also it's these big electromagnetic fields that we have outside of our bodies that we often think of as auras. That's often how we talk about it, right? So this is emitting frequency and sound at all times. So when you are in a room with other people, you walk into a room and maybe you feel like, I just feel like peace here. I just feel at home. No one's even talked to you yet, but there's just this resonance here. You're actually picking up on their sound, on their electromagnetic field. And there's this ions of light that's being exchanged between your fields. So you are feeling their frequency before you even start talking to them. And same thing if someone's had an argument and you walk into a room and you're like, this energy feels icky. You're picking up on that energy. So everything at a fundamental level is vibration and frequency. And we have something called primary cilia that's out on every single cell of our body that picks up on sound. So we can actually use sound to go in and change the biochemistry in the body and change these electromagnetic fields in the body. And in the East, they believe that, every kind of disease starts in the mind. So it comes from this dysfunctional thought pattern that then manifests in the body. So everything and we can also measure this through now very strong amplifiers, going in and measuring the different organs in the body and seeing what kind of resonance they have when they are in a balanced, healthy state, and seeing that there's a different vibration and frequency when it's not in a healthy state. And similar to an opera singer can shatter glass with their voice, it's happening, if they sing really loud, or how a train can pass an apartment and the furniture will start shaking. That's how our body also resonates with the sound. So it starts adapting that frequency. So if I'm singing to you or relaying a very specific resonance of this is the frequency of healing that organ, and you have it's not resonance, it's not coherent in your body with health, that will start then changing and recoding in order to become resonant with my voice. And when that's happening, that can feel, people think they're going to, like you mentioned, oh, it was so angelic. It was this beautiful experience. And a lot of people have that experience. But what a lot of people often experience as well is that, holy shit, this is uncomfortable. The last sound healing I had 3 people that thought they had to run into the bathroom and purge because they were changing these energetic fields in the body that then go in and actually change the layers of often things that maybe have become stuck emotions in the body.
Yes.
So what happens then when we go in and change that frequency is that emotion then arises again. And we are feeling why am I crying? I don't even understand what I'm crying about.
Yes.
Why do I have pain in my arms? What's going on here?
Yes.
And that is the only thing you really need to do, because the beauty of sound is that it bypasses the mind. We don't actually need to even understand with the mind what's going on, which is why we can access such deep traumas and things that have been suppressed for a really long time, because we don't really want to feel it. But it still gives us the ability to go in and change these fields. So things that are still very present in the body that we might have intellectualized, but haven't still released. So what we need to do, and the only thing that's really required for it to release, is for us to feel the emotions when they're coming and surrender to the process. So sometimes the bodies will start shaking. It may be very cold, very hot. People can start to cry. And that is just a release, a beautiful somatic release that lets it all go. So you can have this upgrade into this new coherent frequency and resonance?
And this is the thing. Yes, science says one thing, and we've talked about this earlier also, but this is undeniable. And as you were saying this, I just remembered, every time, and I don't do myself sound healing or like healing bowls. I just usually bring guests. And by the way, I am really planting the seed here. I know one day we will meet somewhere in the world and create something extraordinary. So I'm planting that possibility because
Please.
it's happening. It's already done, actually. It's already done. We're just going to bring it closer.
100%.
Because where are you located? Remind me.
I'm in Switzerland.
Yes. Okay. Easy. Yes. But one thing that fascinates me is when people are coming out of a sound healing. And I have a fresh memory from last week where people were coming out, and I just, slowly allow space for them to just integrate that. And they slowly sit, and you just look at everyone, and they all come out of such a unique, like you said, experience. Mm-hmm. And some are just crying. They can't even hold it, and they don't know what it is, but we're like, just cleanse yourself. Like this is emotions moving. Some, and I remember one of the lady, she thought she was dying. Like how, for me, I'm like, how could you think? It's like the most beautiful thing. How could you think you're dying? But she was in her head fighting and butting against some old thoughts that she was resisting. Yeah. And the whole time she was like clenching to it and resisting and coming out. She was extremely frustrated about that. And then we just chatted about that was exactly what she needed to receive. That's exactly the teacher. And then in the next workshop, it all cleared because she saw her edge and decided to just soften it. But, it's just so magnificent to see, like you said, how sound is information. And I visualize it, you talked about this vibration. I always visualize it as at a cellular level, sound comes in and like creates that shaking. Like you said about the train and moving the furniture. So imagine it's like this little Swiffer coming and cleaning house and removing anything that's not in resonance anymore. 100%. And that's why sound healing is such a potent modality, especially when you do all this like, manifestation and future self vision. If you're like, sound is instrumental to get you in that state that is in perfect alignment. Because you get to release, and of course people are purging, you're releasing what no longer serves. And it's just so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. And I think like you mentioned, like that the intention is also, that's kind of what we're shooting into the field. That is the direction, that is the antenna, like, okay, that's where I'm going. So even though there are certain frequencies that will optimize different parts of the body, the most important tool you still have is your intention. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take the spaceship? Like it's like you are, like I'm going to guide you, but like you also really get to choose what kind of journey this is. And the more we can, like you mentioned, lean in, because if we're assisting, and sometimes like it's not like everyone always just like clicks in like this. There will be people sometimes that are like, I was so in my head and I just couldn't get out of it, and like, oh, by the end I kind of tapped in. And sometimes that's also the mind resisting the process. Like sometimes there can be so deep healing going on that the mind doesn't even want to get on board. I don't even want to look at that. That is just terrifying to me. So I'm going to pretend to just be up here and like cloud my mind and just, because the sound will still do its job. So that's also the beauty of it. So people can sometimes think like, oh, it wasn't that deep today. And then they come home and they're like, oh, holy shit. Okay. This was more than I thought it really was. So it's always different. And what I usually say is just like, it's always perfect. You're going to receive the exact effort, like the exact activation that you're ready for, and nothing more, nothing less.
And I love that you're saying this. And it actually reminds me, of course, I'm going to bring Egypt again. And I actually want to hear about your Egypt experience, because I know you went too. But you know how when you walk through the temples, I feel like it's an activation without you fully knowing, because at first sight in the 3D world, it looks like you're just walking through remnants of stone, and it doesn't look like much. But because the intention when these temples were created, because of the sacred geometry, the angle of the way the sun comes in, and the frequency that is in the field of these temples, the mere fact of walking through it, whether you're aware of it or not, like you're saying, the sound, it's all doing its thing. You know, it's all working. And for me, often I wouldn't feel it in the temple. I would feel it that night or the day after. Like, oh my gosh, okay, I can feel something is shifting. Could it be that? And I actually was looking at a documentary on Gaia, which explains, especially for the Hathor temple of Dendera, how they've been able to prove the frequency vortex that is happening in the middle. So you just walking through that, your entire field is being elevated and shifted. But it's fascinating because you're not aware of it. And it reminds me of what you just said with sound. Like, even if you try to control it with your mind, it doesn't matter because it's still going to make its way where it needs to go. So it's just so beautiful. Did you know there's a hidden archetype secretly creating your reality? Not the version of you show to the world, but the one shaping your choices, your energy, and the timeline you're living in. I created a quiz to help you uncover her. It's called the Hidden Archetype Guiding Your Next Reality Quiz, and it reveals the feminine frequency that is running beneath your life right now, and the identity your soul is ready to rise into. You'll find out which archetype is holding your current timeline: the Phoenix, the Oracle, the Sovereign, the Mystic, or the Dream Weaver, and the portal that leads you into your next evolution. Seriously, take 3 minutes. Meet the version of you that's been waiting. The quiz is linked in the show notes. I'd love to hear you. Like, I know you said you went to Egypt a year ago. What came out of that for you? It's still working through.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. It was one of the most special experiences for me. It was really sailing down the Nile for like over a week and just like feeling the communion with the water, with the land, with just being in that symbiotic relationship where it's like, and it was like you were moving all the time. So your body was like not really in time and space. It's like, where are we? Where are we not? Because you were moving during the night, and it was just like, no, not even an end to it. So I felt like, it almost felt like being on psychedelics to me, just being on the water and on the Nile for such an amount of time, and just being really in communicating with this water element. And I think it's interesting that what you say about like, it will really activate you whether you know it or not. Cause we were talking about that when we were there. We're like, all these tourists, did they know, like, when they're coming back and their life is like falling apart in order to build back to be something greater? Do they know that this is what it's about? You know,
and they all think they're getting sick on food. And it's like, no, your body is purging emotionally and just upgrading. Yeah,
no, it's because everyone is getting the upgrade, whether you know it or not. So Egypt was really special to me, and I didn't have the words at the time, and I actually don't think I still do, because I think it's beyond the human comprehension of what it was. Just a deep remembrance. I had a really, really deep activation with Sekhmet, one of the deepest activations I've ever had. That was just also, I had a journey about 8 months prior that was telling me that I needed to go to Egypt. And it was giving me these different codes, and it was sharing with me, like, this is going to be reactivated once you go to Egypt. Like, this part of you is going to come online. Then it had just like shown me the potential, and I completely forgotten about it until that moment. And it was actually not supposed to be a super deep practice. We were on the boat, we were doing some embodiment work and this like visualization. And I just dropped into this, like, it felt like I was gone for forever. And I think it was probably 20 minutes. And out of that just came this other remembrance of that journey. And it was as if just another part of me came online that have been weaving in my world in the last year, and just stepped into a different layer of embodied power, of certainty, of just like owning my truth in a different way. That was just special. And we had, I think there are these beautiful temples, like you spoke about the Temple of Hathor. I think it's stunning. And then one of the most potent activations that we had was in this tiny little temple that just looks like a room. It doesn't even look like a proper temple. It's like, is this even a temple? Like, everyone had been like, some of the guides have been like, oh, like, this is my favorite temple. And I'm like, oh, okay. You're kind of expecting something cool, and you come to this, I'm like, is it big? And I'm like, you'll see. And I'm like, and then we get there. there. And it's just this room. And I'm like, okay. But the cool thing there was like, we could be super private without having private access, because if it was as if we're having private access. So we had this whole ceremony, and it was just, yeah, it was activation. So, so I think like when we do these things, there might even be things happening 5 years from the experience that
Absolutely.
it stems back to that moment in time, that there was a certain part of you that suddenly remembered, a certain part of your dormant genetics that came back online, that was suddenly expressing itself 2 years later in a different experience. So for me, it was a really, really beautiful experience. And I'd say the wisdom of the Nile for me was as much of a teaching as the wisdom of the temples. Like that was really, really special. I'm also a double Pisces, so it might be a little bit because of that. But,
Yeah, I felt that too. It's so special. And thank you for sharing that. It makes me giggle because I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. I love what you're saying, that it's still being, weaved into us, because there's actually in the Temple of Hathor, that famous hieroglyph of the light bulbs, with the serpent in it, which is engraved in non-earth material. Like it's this rock that doesn't come from earth. And I remember putting my hands on it and my eyes started flickering, like just and what I heard is, you're receiving something at this moment. You don't know what it is, but you will need this. And I just kept, receiving. And I was like, holy shit, what is this? Cause I could feel my entire body, but it was like, you don't need to know right now. That's all I was hearing, but you're going to need this. And I'm like, ooh, what's coming? And, here's something interesting that I've been witnessing. Like, do you see my camera keeps glitching?
yeah. Yeah.
And that's really how I feel like, and that's the power of sound also, because sound is retained through rocks and bones. And that's why people put their hands on it, to be activated and to receive the frequency, right? And so I know I feel like I'm in between. I have one foot in kind of the old that doesn't fit, and then the new is just like opening here. And it's interesting that the camera keeps glitching, and it's like, okay, we're not quite there yet, but it's coming. It's coming, because the majority of the time it's good. So yeah, sound is just so profound. And, I'm curious if there's one last thing you'd like to share about something that gets you excited, perhaps about where you're going to bring your medicine, or what you're hearing, you're being pulled, or like, what are you seeing? Where is this going?
I get excited every time I do a sound healing. There's always, new layers of exploration. There's new layers of experiences. And lately we've also been seeing a lot more physical healings, which I didn't really expect, which are just, people that have had neurological pain for years, not able to feel. Like, for example, her left side of her neck, like had been in an accident in 2017. I went up to her and I did like some hands-on healing for her while I was singing during the ceremony. And she got in a lot of pain. And then she was like, okay, she was accepting it and she was just with it. I had already kind of prepared them for that. This might happen when things are releasing. And then I came back to her a second time. And when I did that, the pain just went away. And then she messaged me the day after and she was sharing how she had just, kind of stroked her neck, like randomly. And suddenly the feeling was back that hadn't been there for years. And she was like, this is just wild. Like, what just happened? And then she had this limp under her ear as well, which like 5 days later was almost gone. That had also been there for like 1.5 years. And these are the kind of things that I never expected to see. And I don't even I didn't know that was she had those issues before I went to heal her, which is very clear for me by the intelligence that I was communicating with, that I needed to work on her, like this part of her body. And so it's just trusting the process. And it shows me every single time that it's just because sometimes I can be like, is this really it? It would be sounding a little bit more pretty if I did a higher octave here and it's like, no, that's not what we're doing. And I'm like, okay. And then it was like, oh, when you did that activation, I just something just exploded in my chest, or you went and touched me here and something just completely shifted. It was as if it recalibrated. So again and again, I'm just being really initiated to trusting the process. Cause I am a person that I like to understand things. I really do. I've written a book with almost 1,000 scientific scientific sources. Like if I can understand it, I love it. And then I've just been more and more humble to the fact that most of the powerful work that I do is not necessarily supposed to be understood, but it's witnessed on the other side of that. And that is what's important to me. I don't care if like even I understand it. Because the thing is like when people come ask me afterwards, I'm in trance with them when I'm doing the process. So I will probably not be able to tell them exactly, like they're like, did you see anything? I'm like, no. If you ask me in the moment, because sometimes I've been doing like healing some bigger groups, and I had other people facilitating, and people are having a hard moment. So we're kind of talking through what's going on at the moment. And they're like, what is going on here? And I'm like, oh no, we're recalibrating the spine. And it's just like, oh, is it going to be over soon? I'm like, no, it's just at 72%. It's going to be like another 13 minutes until it's done. You just need to be with this. It's perfect. It's exactly what it's done. It's going to be the strength she needs to leave her husband. Like I can tell you that specific in the moment. But then if you ask me afterward, I couldn't tell you that. So it's like, it needs to be asked in the moment, which is normally not really the setting, but it also doesn't really matter because they got exactly what they needed. And that's what I see again and again. So it is an intelligence that's beyond me, but that's very wise and that knows what it's doing. So I'm just weaving with it.
And I love that you're like the season you're in right now, what you're noticing is the physical healing, because that is the tangible part. And so almost like that's a gift to you, because in order for you to gain in confidence, to be able to open even wider, you just said it, like you need those evidences. So like what a gift that you are shown over and over and over again, how deep your work can be. And as I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking like, of course, they've been hiding this from us. Like, of course, because it is so powerful, yet so simple.
It is.
Like, it actually feels so simple because all you have to do is, like you said, bring the intention and allow yourself to receive the medicine. Mm-hmm. And it actually doesn't need to be more complicated than that.
And it still amazes me. Like, cause I am like, oh, let's do this like advanced method and like, this long thing. And people are like 50-minute, like, just blast it off, just like what just happened. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. And we still have like, I have people all the time that are telling me like how they are having these psychedelic experiences. And a lot of the feedback I'm getting is like, it feels like I wasn't psychedelics and had an angel sing to me. Like that's a very common feedback that I get. So I know that it's creating these like very high translucent state where people are having remembrances and they're healing past lives and they're getting in contact with a different part of their consciousness or getting a lot of information about where to go. So it's just kind of bringing in even more parts of the puzzle. And I'm just here for the ride. I'm here for the game.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Let's go. And so I'm sure people that are listening right now, I'm like, I want to taste this. I want to experience this. So I think you said you have like a little gift, so people can experience it firsthand. And I have to say, one thing that I really commend you for is you've been able to find, I haven't seen anybody doing it the way you do. Like you've really been able to find like the right technical, like softwares and things to be able to, like, even if you're like listening to this on your computer, it feels like you're next to me. Like you've been able to find like the tech to support your gift in a way that I haven't seen before. And I had not experienced that before. So that means the quality, even if you're not next to me in the same room, feels like it. So kudos for that, because I haven't seen any other sound healers doing that. So
thank you. Yeah, it's really important to me because you need the full transmission if you really want to transmute it. And that was actually also a manifestation. Like I wanted to work with this producer who, I had followed her on Instagram for a little while, and I was being asked in an interview, like, are you manifesting anything at the moment? And I was like, actually, okay, it's time for me to call in something new, because I had a lot of other things going on. I'm like, no, nothing more right now. And I was like, yeah, actually it's time. And I was sharing like, I'm actually calling in this producer, and I didn't say her name, but I knew who I was thinking of. And then 20 minutes after that, she comments on one of my reels on Instagram where she's like, wow, this is so beautiful. Your medicine is amazing. Like something to that extent. And she's worked with Kanye West, Selena Gomez, like a lot of the biggest artists in the world. She's an amazing producer. So she's the one one who's like really, we connected, started working together, and really been able to help me like then get this beautiful setup. But she, like, we didn't have any mutual friends. She lives in California. Like, I hadn't commented on any of their things in social media. Like, it was just this, like, I'm like, thank you, universe.
And of course. So now that makes sense, because it is, oh, wow, that's incredible. I'm so, yeah, this is amazing. What a story. So let me know, like, where can people find you online? Of course, we'll put all your links in the show notes, but, and tell us a little bit about this gift that you have.
Yes, Instagram is probably the best way to connect. I also have a podcast where we'll be sharing the interview with you, which I also encourage people to go listen into, called Divinely Driven. And then obviously my website is my name. And then they'll be getting a 15-minute vibrational vortex. This is what I called my sound healings, as it is a vibrational vortex. So we'll link to that in the show notes. You can just tune in, relax, and really just tap in, set your intention, and just come play with us.
Oh my gosh, so amazing. Thank you so much for the work you are doing. Thank you for bringing your angel voice and your gifts online so that you can contribute to bringing more light into this world. Like, literally, I see you as such a strong pillar of light, how, like, you're creating such a massive ripple. And you're so, I really feel that you're in deep integrity also with this. And it's just so beautiful to witness. And you're inspiring me a lot to even go bigger. So thank you for sharing your light. It's just tremendous.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing yours. We're all a reflection of each other, right?
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for those of you who are listening. I hope that this created a deep remembrance. I hope that this activated something that maybe your body is reacting to right now. Maybe you have, shivers, goosebumps, you're hot, warm. Just listen to the nudges, because there's always messages for you. Thank you. And we will see you next week.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.